JD Vance, the author, venture capitalist turned Ohio Senate candidate, who's just really trying to be America's next top MAGA, is trying to prove himself by having the most revolting take on rape, namely saying that it is an inconvenience. This was reported by the Daily Beast during an interview with Columbus, Ohio's Spectrum News 1 on that Texas abortion bill. JD Vance was asked whether a woman should be forced to give birth, even if the pregnancy was the result of incest or rape. And here's what he had to say.
Look, I think two wrongs don't make a right. At the end of the day, we're talking about an unborn baby. What kind of society do we want to have? A society that looks at unborn babies as inconveniences to be discarded?
Should a woman be forced to carry a child to term after she has been the victim of incest or rape?
Look, my view on this has been very clear, and I think the question betrays a certain presumption that's wrong. It's not whether a woman should be forced to bring a child to term, it's whether a child should be allowed to live, even though the circumstances of that child's birth are somehow inconvenient or a problem to the society. The question really to me is about the baby. We want women to have opportunities, we want women to have choices, but above all, we want women and young boys in the womb to have the right to life.
But yeah, some say inconvenient, others say illegal. Yeah, tomato. What are you gonna do? So yes, this is him. I'm sure he's got a bunch of deleted tweets in where he defends a woman's right to choose and the law, but yeah, that's neither here nor there. He went on to claim a bunch of ridiculous things, but thoughts on, I got a lot of thoughts on this, but thoughts on this, gentlemen?
Yeah. So I have a fun prediction to start with. I think that after JD Vance loses this primary, he will come out in some period of time and say, sorry, I didn't mean any of it. And politics makes you do silly things, and I withdraw half the things I said. That's my prediction. Why? Because like he was in, I hate to say legitimate circles because they're not legitimate in other ways, but he's a multimillionaire investor. He wrote this book that got turned into a movie. What that means is he, for better or for worse, he has rational acquaintances, okay? And he went to Yale Law, so he knows everything he's saying is total baloney. He just, he knows it to his core. And so that's why he's thirsty for power here. And if you want to win a Republican primary, you have to be the most evil and dumbest and craziest person. So he's trying to out crazy Josh Mandel. It ain't gonna happen. Josh Mandel's legitimately nuts. And so he's gonna lose, and then when he loses, he'll come back around and go, oh, my investor buddies who are all millionaires, you're not good people either, but at least a lot of you live in the rational world, and I'm so sorry, I didn't mean it. Okay, yeah, apology ahead of time, not accepted.
Yeah, first of all, let me just say, as a fellow former trailer American, not all hillbillies, okay? This guy's an embarrassment to hillbillies, which is really funny if you know any of the stereotypes about hillbillies, So basically look, I know everybody thinks we hump our cousins and hate math and all that stuff, but this guy's giving us a bad name, but that's how I actually feel about it. Also, I don't know if I should say this or not, but it's true. I know JD a little bit. I haven't talked to him in a very long time. I first went viral in 2016, right when Hillbilly Elegy came out. Me and JD were both being brought onto TV to explain hillbillies to America. We were the two guys in that racket or whatever at the time. And also, as a reminder, everybody, Francesca alluded to this. Back then, he was tweeting how much Trump sucks. He was like being very reasonable and rational and everything. He also came to one of my stand-up shows with his wife, came backstage afterwards. We went to a bar and hung out all night. And I was like, I thought this guy was all right, And then, so I very, very strongly believe that everything Cenk said is true about the play he's trying to make. He's trying as hard as he can to be what he thinks they want him to be, which is America's next top MAGA. I love that. But But the thing is, you can't coach that. Like you said about Mandel, you know what I mean? Like he's legitimately crazy. Like you can't just pretend. You got to really have the screws loose upstairs to really connect with these people. You can't just put on the mask and make it happen, which is why he's getting dog walked in this primary. So like, yeah, I hope he's proud of himself. That's all I can say.
The Inconvenient Rape, indeed. That is the forthcoming documentary by J.D. Vance. I want to weigh in here a little bit, but first let's go to his next quote where he said that Texas is actually saving children and Democrats don't care about the babies.
You have described yourself as 100% pro-life.
Sure.
What do you think about what's happening in Texas?
Well, I think in Texas, they're trying to make it easier for unborn babies to be born. There is a view common among leaders of the Democratic Party that babies deserve no legal protections in the womb. That is a common view in the Democratic Party. All I'm saying is that view's wrong. It is.
Okay, so no on a million levels. No, Texas does not care about babies. I looked this up and sometimes we have to remember, right? Like, hey, which states have expanded Medicaid, right? This is medical assistance. This is the ability for young mothers. This is the ability for babies and children specifically to get health care, right? Poor people, disabled people, people who can't work, Medicaid expansion. Texas still hasn't expanded Medicaid, even though under Obamacare, under the ACA, there is federal funds waiting to help out real babies outside of the womb, i.e. babies, right? Babies inside the womb, fetuses, zygotes, twinkles in an eye. That's what that is. So no, Texas doesn't care about babies. And the second thing I'll say is I've done a lot of reporting on this issue. I went to El Salvador. Well, El Salvador has put the right of the fetus in their constitution, something that a lot of states around this country also want to do. What does that mean? It means that women literally just become vessels, that their lives, if they are in danger of death, right? If they have leukemia and they're not able to get treatment, it doesn't matter. You have to bring that baby to term. If the baby is unviable, if the baby will be born dead, it doesn't matter because if the baby will kill the mother in childbirth, it doesn't matter because that is what happens when you give personhood to something that is not yet a person. Okay, you become a second-class citizen, and that's what this is about. So yes, it's his play at making his mark and making his MAGA brand, but it actually means death for women and for children and for a lot of people.
Yeah, I think more than death, and that's a funny thing to say, but you'll see what I mean. What it does is it takes away the agency and hence the life and liberty of the women entirely. It makes them, as though their whole point is to carry other babies to term. Their point is not to live their own lives. They become irrelevant when you pass laws like that. And as Francesca said, they become vessels. Well, they're not vessels. They're independent human beings. And if you actually respected life, you would respect their lives. But they don't. That's not what this is about. This is about going back millennia to ancient times. And it has nothing to do with what's written in the Bible either. I've said this 1,000 times. You could look it up in 5:11 to 31 in the Bible. The Bible is pro-abortion and is actively in favor of it, and God actually carries out an abortion. So no, you go back 2,000 years, not to get the word of Jesus Christ, you go back 2,000 years to the point where women were chattel and men treated them as property. And that's the whole point of this. And so when he says, oh, the Democrats don't want the fetus to have any rights at any point in the pregnancy, again, that's just not true. Roe v. Wade doesn't quite use the terms that I use, but it's, I think, helpful to explain it this way. When the fetus, it becomes an independent person at viability, then it has independent rights as a human being. But while it is dependent, either at the 5th month or as a zygote, it is still the choice of the mother to decide what to do. The woman, because you cannot put a gun to her head and basically say, your life is no longer your own. The state has kidnapped your body and you must serve the interests of the state rather than your own. That is deeply antithetical to actual morality and to treating women as the full citizens that they are. I mean, here we are in the year 2021, and we're still having a debate with right-wingers about whether women should have the same rights as men. Thanks for watching the Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.